My name is Patricia Bidar, and this is my story, The Gap Year. We were staying at Alan's son's cabin in Bondurant, Wyoming, 30 miles outside of Jackson. But once a week we'd drive into town. Our ritual was to first hit the dump. Alan's squeaky Bronco would be ripe with the stink of our bagged trash. Then it was laundry and a bite to eat at the $1 Million Cowboy Bar. Finally, we'd visit his 3-acre parcel, undeveloped, encircled by a buck rail fence with a glorious view of the Tetons. You might say I was taking what richer families would later call a gap year. Back then it was more of a what will I study and how will I pay year. It began with a receptionist job at a big high-rise near the lake. But now I was jobless, living it up with my ex-boss like a rodeo queen in Wyoming. The same realtor who'd sold Harrison Ford his place years before sold Alan his parcel. The story went that no one wanted to help Ford, who'd arrived at the real estate office dusty and rank on a motorcycle. I wondered how old the story must be. Wasn't that for Star Wars a million years ago? But Alan went for the bait and loved to repeat it. I don't remember who started our ritual of peeing in the corners of Alan's lot. Of course, it was easier for him being a man. One day, I spied a porcupine balanced on the fence, half hidden by a cottonwood droop, and mistook it for a cat. Crouching there in my jeans and panties lowered, and the smell of my own urine in my nostrils, I wondered sincerely whether it was true they could shoot their quills. Funny little girl, Alan said, patting me on the back like a pal. Alan had convinced me to quit my job and join him in Wyoming. I didn't need to worry about money, he said, so long as we stayed together, neither of us added. I didn't love the baleful looks and conversations that broke off when I entered the break room at work. It was an old story, a boss and his assistant. He was still the boss, but I'd been moved to compliance, far from the seat of power. The dirt road where the parcel sat ended in a green and fast-moving Snake River. One day we met a man on that road. He looked to be about Alan's age, but his face was doughy and sun-flushed. He said he and his wife had a newborn baby and that they were the first to have built on their parcel. He told us the enormous spread across from him was owned by Larry Ellison from Oracle, two names that meant nothing to me. Alan straightened, impressed. We were close enough to the river to hear its singing rush. The air was redolent with sagebrush and wild mint. Alan, standing feet wide apart, offered the man a look at his land, a tad eagerly, I thought. I knew how he felt because I'd felt it myself. As long as he owned the spot and did nothing with it, he was on equal terms with anyone. I begged off, saying I wanted to sit by the river. By the time they set off, the man had invited us to dinner. I picked my way across the stones at the riverbank. It hadn't occurred to me there'd be no place to sit. The river was green and powerful. I was in the presence of majesty, with the tooth-like Tetons filling the western sky. I lowered myself on the sharp rocks and stayed there, even though it hurt. The water looked muscular, as if it could swell up and grab me, with only the jagged peaks as witness. Our hostess was sweet, no older than I was. Her black hair and red lips made me think of Snow White. She told us that earlier she'd taken the baby out and gathered red and orange leaves and pine cones to fashion the centerpiece. She also produced a meal of porterhouse steak, squash soup, a green salad, and freshly baked cookies. What had I done today? Given my lover a patient hand job, applied lipstick, and hopped into the Bronco for a ride to town. My ass was still tender from sitting on the rocky bank of the Snake. I kept pace with our host, putting away glass after glass of red-black Pinot Noir. Alan requested and received beer. He told the story about Harrison Ford, and when asked, said we'd met at work. With each new bottle of beer, the wife brought a new frosty mug. Through a white plastic monitor came the sounds of the baby making its noises in another room. The wife excused herself. Our host was beat-faced by this time. His eyes were slits. I thought he might be asleep. I wobbled into the hallway to find a bathroom. The door was halfway ajar, and I pushed my way in. It was a bedroom for the baby. Inside, her infant in her arms, Snow White slept. The baby regarded me with a grave expression. Neither of us blinked. Beside its Snow White's nipple glistened